Good morning, everyone. Let's talk about the color wheel. This is a color wheel, a good thing to have. I think they have apps, and you can go online and get a picture of this. You don't need to go out and buy it. However, I have it. Got it at the fabric store or something. I can't remember. I've had it so long. This is going to help you color correct a baby. You don't have to worry too much about this with your first baby, but let's go over it since we're here doing this anyway. So this is a color wheel, and with color correcting a baby, sometimes you'll get a baby that's just a little too yellow, a little too green, a little too pink. And if you give it a wash in the opposite color, it will help bring that baby where you want it to be. And I hope I'm making sense. The most common thing is a baby that maybe is a little bit too pink. What you might want to do is or too peachy or too pink. What you might want to do is give that baby a green wash. And you're thinking, put green on a baby? Yes, but I don't mean Christmas tree green. What you're going to do is you're going to take some paint thinner and a little bit of green, and you're going to make the thinnest wash possible, and you're going to pat it on that baby and let it dry, and do it once or twice until that color comes back to where you want it. Another place maybe is sometimes babies get a little too magenta, and that's usually because you've used a little bit too much pink and blue and red together, and that's hard to fix, but it's doable. The kind of green you'll want is a kind of muddier green or a kiwi green. Again, you're going to mix it up on your palette, add a lot of paint thinner, and make a super thin wash. If your baby's a little bit on the blue or ashen side, you might want to add a little bit of orange. This is how it works. Now, that's sort of an advanced move. You don't have to worry too much about that. I'm going to look at these babies. They're all mostly painted about the same, but there are coloring differences. So I will go through them and tell you what I would do. This is a perfect example of a baby that's just still a little too yellow. He has a lot of blue in him, but he's still kind of jaundiced out a little bit. And I want this baby to look, I like the yellow. I do like the yellow, but I don't want it to look marigold yellow. I want him to have some nice warm tones with a little undertone of gold or amber. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this baby probably a wash of some pink and maybe another wash of some umber. Very, very light. Maybe a couple. We'll go through that in a minute. Landon here is very pink, but he's a good pink. I want him to be sort of a pale baby, so I don't want to put too many flesh layers on him, but I don't want him to look like he's sunburned. So I'm going to do the flesh layers and see what happens, and if he is still a little pink, I'll color correct him, but you know, I think he's turning out pretty well. I think he's doing okay. This baby doesn't have as many layers yet. So I think this baby's going to get maybe a umber wash and maybe a lavender wash. This baby's just going to get her skin tones. I like her coloring. It's perfect to me. And Claudia here, this baby's still a little bit on the darker side, still a lot of blue and lavender coming through. I think this baby needs a little bit more pink, a little bit more burnt umber. And this baby is going to be a little bit more ethnic skin toned, a little bit darker. So I'm not going to get rid of all that blue. I kind of want to keep some of that blue there. And I might add a little ultramarine to my brown wash, just to make sure this baby doesn't turn orangey. So let's get started. I will be right back. We'll take a couple of these babies and do some washes and get to the next step. Okay, here I am being a mad scientist. Again, this is probably more information than you need at the beginning, but I thought I would share it anyway. I am making a brown wash, and this wash I'm making would be for an ethnic baby. It's got some blue and some brown in it, a little bit of baby skin, and a whole lot of paint thinner. That's because I'm making a big batch. I make a lot of babies, and so I use this up pretty quick. If you're making 1 or 2 babies, again, use your palette. Let me grab that. palette. You can use this, or you can use a small cup. You don't need a whole lot. And you don't want to waste all your supplies. You're not, especially when you're experimenting with colors and what you like and what you don't like. I'm mixing this in the lid because it's a drag to mix it in the jar. I don't know why, but it sticks in all the nooks and crannies. This jar is kind of square. And so I just mix the pigment in the lid with some thinner, get it all broken down, and then I mix it into the jar. I'm going to grab a little bit of blue because I think it needs just the tiniest amount of blue. This will cut the orange. And yes, I would do the blue, but I can't get it open. I need to go to the gym or something. Again, just the tiniest amount of blue. That's actually way more than I planned to do, but I'll add more paint thinner. And again, the color wheel says, you know, blue will help take away orange. And you can see, let me show you what failure looks like here. This is how blue it is. It is way too blue. Luckily, my jar is only half full, so I think what I'll do is I'll mix some more brown in there and some more paint thinner, and I'll make it pretty. And before I do that, let me show you I have a regular brown wash here, which is just burnt umber and paint thinner. I have what I call purple pixie wash. It is just some titanium. Oh my goodness, I'm leaking. Some titanium, some purple, and a lot of paint thinner. I make all kinds of weird colors and I experiment to see how they work. And this one looks very odd, but it's actually kind of cool. Here's a very pink milky wash. Here's a yellow wash. And we've covered yellow. And we've covered red, so I won't go over that again. Here's a lavender wash. Here's a very purple wash. I probably never, ever use this. It's just a little bit too hard on babies. And this is a dirty brown wash. I don't use this very often just because it does what it says. It's dirty brown. I am not a fan of that color. I made it, used it twice, and dumped it out. And you know what? I may dump it in here. It's like, you know, we're just going to have some fun. There's no reason to feel freaked out about it. If it doesn't work, I don't use it. Anyway, those are washes, and they're intended to go on with either a sponge, holes or no holes, depending. And it's just like we did with the red, just like we did with yellow, just like we did with the blue. Just a very light, translucent wash. And I'll be back and we'll wash a baby. Okay, here we are. And I tidied up a bit, and I actually corrected the brown. Let me show you what I did. I just added some more burnt umber and some thinners, and I got this pretty deep, dark chocolate brown with just a hint of gray in it, and I will use that for ethnic skin tone babies. I just didn't want you to think I had totally wrecked it. And again, you know, you just play and experiment. There are no mistakes. I do have a bunch of this on my hands, and I don't want to get it on this baby because he is a fair-skinned baby. So at this point, you put on all your layers. Your baby's modeled. Everything looks great. What I like to do is start doing some flesh tones. And this is already a sweet baby. Once he has his eyes in and his eyelashes in, he could be done. I would probably do a little bit more blushing on his cheeks, pink up his lips, do his nose, all his other little bits and parts. But for the most part, I could stop right here. But being me, I won't. And I'm going to use you as an excuse to keep going and say, I'm just trying to be helpful. I'm going to use a medium. If you go back to the first video, you'll see what that looks like. It's kind of like chocolate milk, but much lighter. Oops, sorry. And it's just a wash. And the reason why I do it is I think that it softens up some of the modeling that's a little harsh under there. He doesn't have strong modeling, but I don't want it to be obvious. Again, like with the veins, I want it to be a shadow. I want it to be right underneath that skin, super subtle. And so I'm going to just give him maybe one or two of these layers. I don't think he needs a lot of brown washing, so I'm just going to do the flesh layers on him. And, you know, when I'm all done and I say, you know, maybe I was wrong, maybe he does need to darken up a bit, or he needs a little more peach or orange or yellow, I can still do it. You know, there's no there's no missed opportunity. You can just keep going and going. And I want to get in those ears. It's basically, we're doing exactly what we did when we first started, the exact same thing. Just getting that flesh in there, a nice thin layer. We're going to do hands, feet, arms, legs, bake at 265, and let that go. After this, and I don't want to get ahead, but after this, what I'm going to do is what I call final touches, and that means I'm going to do another round of blushing, pink up cheeks again, put a little color on those lips, and you know, if elbows and knees have faded a bit, pink them up a little, and go around and see if there's any cleanup work to be done, if there's any little spots that need to be taken care of. And then we will get to manicures and pedicures. Really, we're almost done. And these layers go super fast. We just want to soften up that modeling a little bit so it doesn't look severe. So I'm going to set him aside and let his little head dry for a minute. And this baby, I decided, after all, I think I want to put just a little bit more yellow on this baby. And I have some mixed here. And actually, it's a little bit darker than I want it to be. So I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. And get that yellow sponge that we used before. And I am going to apply the lightest, you can see right there, just the faintest hint of yellow on this baby. It's going to turn all this very, very pink stuff a little more peachy. Again, so subtle. If it's too light, I can go again, no big deal. But you can play. As you layer colors, you'll see how they affect each other, and no mistakes here. And a lot of people worry about layering washes. I don't know why a lot of people are fearful. Again, you don't have to do it, but when you do layer washes, it adds depth. It just makes, I think it makes the baby more realistic. And there are places that don't have pink, and so the yellow is different there. And the very pink places, the yellow looks peachy. And the places where it's blue, the blue is a little stronger and almost turns a tiny bit green, which is pretty natural looking to me. I think when we look at our skin, we think of those veins in our wrists as being blue, but they are almost green. And this helps with that without being, you know, too obvious. I really like the way that's looking. To me, it's hard to tell when it's wet, but when it dries and cooks, and things fade a little bit when they cook, I think that's going to be exactly where I want it.